Good evening, blog viewers. Today we're going to continue with with our post on the good, and today I want to make an important distinction between the types of truths that are available to us as rational beings, and I want to distinguish these truths as primary good truths and secondary foreign to the self non-good truths. Now, primary good truths are those truths that you have some sort of personal experience of being true, and which matter in some meaningful sense to how well a human life will go. Either you sort of came up with the idea yourself and you know it to be true because you came up with it and it's true to your experience of the world, or you read about it somewhere or picked it up from someone else or some other way, but you can relate it to your experience in the world and you know it to be true. So these are what I would consider primary good truths. Now, primary good truths are very closely tied to the self. They aren't foreign to the self. With these truths, you're not supposed to, or you don't have to accept the truth merely upon the authority of others, or whether because they're smarter than you, they're older than you, or they have some sort of certain expertise that you may lack. With a primary good truth, you have the experience in reality to come up with the truth, or to take someone else that said it and relate it and accept it as true based on your personal experience. Let's give an example of this, of a primary good truth. Obviously, one of the artists I like a lot is Eminem, and in one of Eminem's songs, one I like very much, it's called I'm Back. Eminem, at some point in the song, he's talking about different things, and he asks at some point, what do I think of success? And now let's stop right there. We know that at this point, this is in Eminem's second CD, so we know at this point that Eminem has already been successful, very successful, at the time he writes I'm Back. He'd already come out with the Slim Shady LP, which had sold millions of copies. He'd been successful by almost every traditional metric of success, whether you want to use money, reputation, power, prestige, fame, whatever. He'd met all of those requirements. So when Eminem in I'm Back asks, what do I think of success? Obviously, whatever answer he gives, he's talking based on some sort of primary self-experience of the world. And he's about to give an answer which is not of trivial concern to either him or the rest of us. It's a truth that is not of secondary importance, because both Eminem and most of us spend a lot of time year after year after year after year trying to be successful. So I would argue, again, this question fits the secondary requirement of a primary good truth, in that it is has a real importance to a well-lived human life. And so what does Eminem think of success, at least as presented in the song I'm Back? He asks that question, what do I think of success? And he answers basically words to the effect that he thinks success sucks. He thinks it's too much stress. He thinks it's too many stares, too many people obviously looking at him all the time or following him around, always in the public spotlight, and just too much mess, he says. Words to that effect. So it's a very non-flattering picture of what it means to be successful. Now, we have every reason to think Eminem had many personal experiences that caused him to have such a view of success. Again, he had been successful at the time. So this would be, from every perspective you could view it, this would be a primary good truth. Eminem clearly didn't just read these lines in some book somewhere and then put it in a song I'm Back. So it's a great example of a primary good truth from the perspective of Eminem at this point. And so how does this truth, even if it's a primary good truth from Eminem's perspective, how does it become a primary good truth from our perspective? Well, if I can take what Eminem says, I or you or anyone else watching this or whoever, if you can take what Eminem says and connect it to many different experiences you've had within personal reality, and you see that statement makes sense, it rings true to you, you can relate it to a lot of different experiences you've had or that you've seen other people have, then I think you can adopt Eminem's primary good truth as your own. You don't just adopt it because Eminem said it. That's not the point. Rather, you look to what he said, or that somehow you came in contact with what he said, and you search your reality for confirmation that it's true. Only then do you accept it as a primary good truth. Now, secondary foreign to the self non-good truths are totally different from primary good truths, obviously. If I'm going to set up a distinction, obviously one has to be much different than the other. These kinds of truths are foreign to the self, meaning that even if they're true, you have no personal experience of these things as being true. You may have read it somewhere online or in a book or an encyclopedia, or someone may have told it to you, but that's it. That's the only experience you have of it. You've never personally experienced the truth of the statement. You really have no reason to doubt that it's true, but you also have no reason either to believe that it is true or that its truth would be important for you. So the very fact that your personal experience in the world has never touched upon this truth, I would argue that itself is proof enough of the secondary, not primary, importance of this truth. So let's give an example. I think you can pick almost any scientific truth, and I don't want to unfairly pick apart science, but it's just such an easy example point. So let's pick the scientific truth that the size of the observable universe is some 47 billion light years across. Okay, so immediately we know there's no way you could have any personal experience of such a truth. There's probably 5 people in the world that came up with that number based on some sort of observation. Who knows if they had enough personal experience to even come up with the 47 billion light years numbers. But for the remaining 7 billion people on the planet, there's no way we could have any personal experience of 47 billion light years across. Even if you bought the most expensive telescope, you could never see 47 billion light years. On 1 light year is 6 trillion miles, so forget about it. Second, it's very debatable whether this truth has any relevance to living a good human life here on Earth, the only place we can live. So we can already see this is obviously an example of a secondary, foreign to the self, non-good truth. It's so foreign to our experience of reality and the way we need to and to shedding some guidance as to how we should live or should approach things, that it just cannot be a primary good truth. So when you repeat a secondary, foreign to the self, non-good truth, I think you're always doing it on the basis of some second-hand knowledge of someone which may or may not be true and may or not be confirmed by some personal experience, even of them, of reality. So you're basically a messenger for the truth of others, but are not speaking your own truths based on what you've experienced in the world. And I think in general it's not a very good idea at all to become the type of person that is in the habit of constantly expressing secondary, foreign to the self, non-good truths. You're constantly downgrading and devaluating your own experience of reality in exchange for those that you don't know to be true and haven't found to be confirmed in your experience. And I think that's a pretty quick way to destroy your personality, your self-identity, your conception of self, and all the things that are very, very valuable. So with that, I'll conclude this. I'm going to put this in the Good series, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.